Yes, given the conventions governing the use of the word proof in contemporary English language, I would not want to say that I think I can prove God's existence. Given what we now understand by deductive reasoning, what we have to remind ourselves is that any valid deductive argument, and that's what all proofs are when you look at them, all of the traditional theistic proofs are forms of deductive argument. Any valid deductive argument must be such that it is always reversible. That is to say, if the conclusion can be shown validly to follow from the premises of the argument, then assuming the truth of the premises, you can infer the truth of the conclusion. But by the same token, you can always equally well deny the truth of the conclusion, and if you have good reasons for thinking it false, infer to the falsity of one or the other of the premises from which that conclusion has been deduced. So it's always possible for someone disposed not to believe in God, or to believe that the statement God exists is a true statement. It's always open to her or him to question the validity of the premises from which, in the argument in question, that the conclusion that God exists has been deduced. That means then that you cannot have a knockdown, drag-out proof for God's existence because this move is always open in the case of any proof. The thing that I think also follows from that is that all forms of theistic argument, if they're valid and proper, are really forms of reductio ad absurdum argument. That is to say, they're all attempts to show that the conclusion God exists follows from premises so undeniable, so unquestionable, that to question their truth would be more absurd than to accept the truth of the conclusion from which, to which they inevitably lead, given valid reasoning. So that it's more reasonable to believe that God exists than it is to believe, for example, that nothing exists, or that everything is absurd, or something. Whatever premise you would try to put in its place, in place of the premises from which God exists is deduced, would turn out to be more absurd than the conclusion that God exists. I think that's the kind of, another way to say this is that what arguments can do is show you the price you have to pay if you deny their conclusion. More than that they cannot do. And by usual uses today of the word proof, that doesn't amount to a proof. Perhaps nothing does.